Hello everybody and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself George bringing you a brand new movie review, and this is of course for Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise and directed by Joseph Kosinski, out in cinemas in the United Kingdom next Wednesday the 25th of May. And I'm going to bring you a very quick spoiler review, as we do a lot of these now. We get to see these films early, which is a really cool thing, a very fortunate thing for us, I'm going to add as well. And obviously with these sometimes we only get one person, so unfortunately I've not been able to get Tate with me at the screening, but stay tuned to the video and we might announce something else coming up. But before we get into that, before I give my thoughts on this incredible film, I'm going to ask you to comment along with us. If you have seen Top Gun Maverick, please do comment your thoughts on Top Gun Maverick. Try and avoid spoilers, but give us your consensus if you have seen it. If you're watching it down the line and the film has come out, please do comment them as well. But I'm really curious to see what a lot of you do think of this film. And of course, hit that like button, share the video and subscribe. We've got a lot more stuff on the way. If you're a fan of, like 80s films, Top Gun itself, Tom Cruise, we've done a lot of stuff covering Tom Cruise in the past. We even did a review of Top Gun that went up yesterday on the channel, which you can now check out. We've reviewed the original before the new one came out, so there's a lot of things happening on the channel, a lot of film related stuff, and we absolutely love to get you involved on this journey, so please do subscribe. And if you're, as I said, if you're a fan of film and TV, there's a few big TV shows coming out in the next few weeks, which we'll be able to talk about. Obviously, Kenobi and Strange Things being those big two, so a lot of stuff happening on the channel. But we are here to talk about Top Gun Maverick. I've just got home from an incredible screening in London, watching this film at the Cineworld IMAX in Leicester Square. If any of you have been to that cinema, it's one of the biggest cinemas in the country. It's my personal favourite cinema in the country. I prefer over the BF IMAX for a variety of reasons. So, dream scenario to view this film today. But I have come out of this completely blown away. I want to get into a bit of a prelude. I know that reviews for this film are out. People may have checked Rotten Tomato scores, all that kind of stuff. I'd seen some glowing reviews. I'd never directly gone into them, read the specifics of them, any of that stuff. I just took it as, okay, people like this, great. And I was really curious and excited to see this for myself because, if you know this channel, you know that I'm a massive advocate of cinemas, of the big screen, seeing these films at IMAX, all that kind of stuff. I've got a segment built towards the end of this video for that, but I was very hyped. Mainly because of Tom Cruise. I'm a massive fan of Tom Cruise as an action star, all that kind of stuff. So that was my main hype heading into this film. The original, I said there's a review on the channel, but I enjoyed the original. I think it's absolutely fine. I don't like it as much as most of us do. However, this new one, this is right up there. And before I actually really go into any more of that, I want to talk about Joseph Kosinski as well, the director. Now, what's fascinating with Joseph Kosinski on the channel? We've got two people that absolutely love two of his films. So I'm a humongous fan of Tron Legacy. It's one of my favourite sci-fi films ever made. I think it's they call them now legacy quels, which are kind of the sequels like 30-40 years later. I guess this is another one he's done. But I absolutely love Tron Legacy. Big fan of that. Big fan of Tron, all down to that film. So that was me seeing him for the first time in that film as a director. And Tate loves Oblivion, another sci-fi film starring Tom Cruise. So when we get around to another video, we'll be able to talk about Joseph Kosinski. And he was brought up in a video of ours last week, so I'm going to quickly plug Reboot from Hell, Phantom Menace. Someone picked him as a potential Star Wars director. But getting back to Top Gun, again, hype heading in, they were the two big things for me. Tom Cruise and Kosinski. And obviously I want to see giant planes flying, fighting, all that kind of stuff, practical stunts, rather than just CGI. And that's a really big thing, a really big selling point for me, and obviously the film delivers on that. But if I'm going to really get into it now, I'm going to very quickly talk about the story. As I said, I'm keeping this spoiler free. I'm not going to go into specifics of it, but I think the baseline tag for me is fair to say that Maverick is brought back into the fold as an instructor at the Top Gun Academy. That's all I'm going to say in regards to the story. Anything else, please do check out yourself. Stuff you want to read, if you want to go in fresh, because one thing I think the original doesn't have as much as a strong story, whereas this one really does. And it's a lot more simple, easier to follow, and when you get to the incredible final act, it really does deliver on that front. So that's a bit of prelude on the story. But as I mentioned, Tom Cruise. I've got to talk about Tom Cruise. Kickstart of Tom Cruise, of course we are. He is not. Well, I mean, he literally is Maverick. Of course, he plays him, but he is the real life A-lister, the action star, the star itself. I think star's a term really overused these days. There are box office draws, big stars, but I don't think you get many stars now that can walk up to a studio and say, give me $300 million to make this new film. And they'll get it. Tom Cruise will. Not many will, but Tom Cruise will. And it'll be, I'm going to do the stunts, I'm going to do this, it's going to be done this way. And the studio will let him do the stunts, they will let him do it that way. And that's the beauty with him. Obviously, there's so many stories about other things, which are, of course, I'm not going to hide from any of that. Obviously, the COVID rant is one I fully agree with. Being someone that's worked in that industry, knows what the kind of pressure there is and stuff like that. God knows what it was like for him as a producer during COVID. But a lot of Tom Cruise stuff does, I think, get analysed a bit too much. I'm not going to talk about the obvious stuff. But heading into this film, Tom Cruise, I think this is one of his best performances in years. Now, I know this is one of his first films since, I think it's his first film since the last Mission Impossible. Obviously, he's filming part 2. I think now we're about to start filming part 2. But in terms of performances, this is one of the best ones I've seen of him in his action roles. Now, obviously, you've got sort of the 90s dramas. Magnolia is one of them, and obviously, he was in Collateral, the Michael Mann film in the early noughties. So there are some other ones to go with. But in terms of the recent big blockbusters, I think this is Tom Cruise's best performance by a country mile. And what I was really surprised by this film is that this film has an engaging story for his character. Now, we all know what Maverick's like. In that first one, we know he's going to come in and save the day, but with this one, they're able just to develop into him a little bit more. We get more of his emotional side. Of course, I'll bring up Brewster shortly, but we still have the effects of losing Goose all the years later, and a lot of other family stuff and personal stuff with him, and I was really surprised to get that edge from him. And I think, one thing I will say of this film is that it's very emotional. I didn't expect to cry watching a Top Gun film, and I'm going to say I did, and I think a lot of other people will. There are certain scenes, if you've seen it, there's probably 2 really big ones, which everyone's going to speak about, and yeah, it was a very emotional viewing, and again, that's a credit to the film. I didn't expect to go and cry during a Top Gun film, and it wasn't out of joy either. I mean, there were some unbelievable moments, really good crowd, I'm going to say. People clapping, a few cheers at the correct moments, not doing it too much. This big swelled moment came up, and a lot of people were doing it, and it is fully earned with this film, and this is where I'm sort of going to go into. I spoke about how great Tom Cruise. I've really got to speak about some of the characters in this film. Miles Teller is playing Rooster, obviously the son of Goose. Did not expect Miles Teller to be one of the best things in the film. That sounds really harsh. I don't mean it in that way. I really like Miles Teller, but he holds his own. His character arc holds his own against Tom Cruise in a Top Gun film, and he's fantastic. And I really appreciate him in this. I think he's got an absolute brilliant performance, and so reminiscent of his father. I think with Miles Teller at the start, when you see the clips out of context, photos, posters, it does look very weird. But in film, in character, he's incredible, and you can tell he is the son of Goose. And there's a really, really good moment involving a piano, which a lot of people will probably get quite emotional at. But I just thought Miles Teller was superb in this, and with Miles Teller comes a lot of the other pilots that join the film. There's some really good ones in there. There's a big ensemble, and a few more of them do get more character development, but I really have to talk about Hangman. He was almost cast to play Rooster, and Tom Cruise and Jerry Bruckheimer liked him so much they cast him another role. They wanted to use him, and he's very much the Iceman for this film. He is the rival in the academy, the cocky one, the other better, who is the best one, all that kind of stuff, and he's actually very good in this film. I was surprised he has a complete character arc as well. I'm not going to go into specifics of those, but I was again surprised to get emotional character depth in other characters that aren't just Maverick, and I didn't even expect it in Maverick. But we've got to speak about one person returning. It is, of course, Val Kilmer as Iceman. Now, if you're familiar with the behind the scenes, obviously Val Kilmer's had throat cancer and he can't talk anymore. There's a really good documentary that came out last year called Val. I think it's on Sky in England. And it covers, through archive footage, most of his life upbringing and where he is today, after the cancer, after the operations, and how he is currently living and how, it has changed. And it's a really fascinating documentary. So if you're a fan of Top Gun, Val Kilmer, please do have a look at that. I think it's kind of essential viewing before this film, if I'm going to be really honest. And what I found beautiful about this film is that you may have seen stories of Tom Cruise saying that, he wanted Val Kilmer in this film. That is absolutely correct. Val Kilmer is in the film, a very, very, very important scene, a very well done scene, one of the best scenes of the film that isn't an action set piece. And I've just got to say, it's so nice to see him back on the big screen. And again, please do see the Val documentary. If you get a chance to see it before Top Gun, I think you'll appreciate the scene a little bit more. But I'm really curious to see how it goes down with other people. But that is a bonus. I'm not going to talk about every single cast member in this film. As I said, it is more a Tom Cruise film. But you've got people like John Hamm, and how John Hamm's towards the bottom of the list to speak about, I don't know, but John Hamm's also great, and John Hamm's never not great. John Hamm's not in enough films, that's what I'm going to say there. People need to cast John Hamm in far more things, but let's talk about something you're here for, and that's the airplanes, the combat, the stunts, the action. And this is where the sequel to me goes Fury Road, Dark Knight level. I did not expect that from a Top Gun film off those earlier trailers. I wasn't as hyped. I didn't think the trailers were bad. But I don't think the trailers not did a good job, but I never felt amped up. I never felt, in the zone, really hyped up and kicked up to see the film. And I don't know whether that's because I saw Top Gun 1 recently and that's helped, or the Tom Cruise hype's ever at the moment. Obviously, he's been in Cannes doing a sort of live thing. He's won one of the awards as well. But there's just something's clicked about this. And I've been listening to 80s music all week. I think maybe because Strange Things is coming back as well. I don't know, but heading into this, I don't think the marketing worked. But everything I've seen, the shots. Obviously, I go to IMAX, like you see the trailer loads. Maybe because this film's had so many delays over the years, it wore off seeing the hype for it, but the action in this film is truthfully some of the best ever assembled on camera in the history of cinema, using the IMAX format, which I'm going to say is essential viewing. Yes, it's fine to see it at a cinema. Ignore the knockoff IMAX nonsense. I know Cineworld have super screen. I know that is it iSense at Showcase. I know that loads of chains have their own knockoff IMAXs. Avoid them. Spend the extra money on an IMAX ticket. Put the extra money into travelling, and I assure you right now, you will have a much better experience watching this film, because there is nothing like it. The sound of the jet engines, the visuals of the planes, and taking in the scenery with the planes. These are cameras in the cockpits that they're all flying with. And if you do a bit behind the scenes search, if you're curious, Tom Cruise put a lot of these people through real life, like military training and like flying training for this film. Like, this was an intense film for them to make, and to see it come out in the way it did is glorious, honestly. If you're a fan of cinema, if you're a fan of action, you're just going to have an incredible time. And what the beauty of this action is, it isn't just, ships flying around shooting each other. It's not that at all. It is specific to the plot, but it's crafted in a way where each action set piece is there to better each other. And at times it feels like a Mission Impossible film, and you might think that's because of Tom Cruise, but you get these incredible moments or these stakes that you just don't think, how is this going to happen? And as a film fan, it likely will happen, or if as an audience member. But it's able to create so much tension, and so much that comes down to Joseph Kosinski's direction, I feel. Oblivion, I mentioned, is a sci-fi film. You get a lot of aerial set pieces in that. Tron Legacy, I think Tron Legacy is very similar to this film. Yes, Tron's mainly CGI, but if you look at all the chase sequences, especially the end with Clue and the flying stuff, a lot of that is really apparent in Top Gun. And I think his direction for this film was superb, and I don't think we could have had a better director on board. I know that Christopher McQuarrie was a producer and wrote the script. I know he's obviously doing Mission Impossibles, but I couldn't tell you any director in the world that probably could have done this after I've seen this. Even someone like Nolan, who did Dunkirk, which is some incredible visuals of Spitfires. But this film, the action is honestly so worth watching. An analogy I had, and this isn't a spoiler at all. I texted one of my friends that was at the screening with me, and I said that it's like Tom Cruise watched Star Wars and thought, you know what, I'm going to just do this in real life with X-Wings and stuff like that, because that's how incredible the visuals and the action set pieces are. You would not think this is a fictional film. You would not think it is practical, but so much of it is practical, and it is honestly just mesmerising. Like, I've been thinking about this film for a few hours now, travelling back down from London, and it just has to be seen to be believed. It has to be seen on the biggest screen possible, because I assure you are not going to have a bad time. This is everything you want from a film. It has action, it has drama, it has emotion, character arcs. I haven't spoke about the soundtrack. Some of the big scenes don't have a soundtrack because you're so intrinsically focused on what is happening with the tension. You don't need it. When you do get the soundtrack, you're not going to go wrong with a bit of Hans Zimmer and Lorne Balfour and bringing in some other stuff. Obviously, of course, Danger Zone comes back and is used fantastically, which had a really loud cheer when the film starts with Danger Zone. A lot of people were cheering, which is really cool. Didn't really expect it. But that was really nice to see. And obviously Lady Gaga's done a song which is played at the end of the film, which works fine for the ending of the film. I'm sure that'll be part of an Oscar push next year. But I've spoken about this film for quite a while now. I'm keeping it strong, keeping it spoiler free, and the reason why is that we are going to do another video on this. I want to get Tate on, I want to get a discussion on. I want to see this film again. I want to take it in, I want to see it again. So much to go in with, and yes, I'll be seeing it again at an IMAX screen. So if I'm going to round out this review, I'm honestly not overstating this, however you want to say it. It's very late at night. This is one of the best sequels ever made. This transcends the original, beyond anything you can imagine. This is better shot, better directed. Not to diss Tony Scott, I love Tony Scott. And so many things, it just builds upon it. But it's 30 plus years ago. Is it modern technology? I don't think it is. There's a certain charm to it. It's the direction, it's the action, and it's also the story. I just feel so much more connected to these characters. And I think that's the big thing for me. When you get sequels like this, you know, you're investing in Tom Cruise, you're investing in his story as well as the action, and it's nice to get that payoff. So, honestly, please see this film. You know, cinemas are back open. They still need the support. And yes, this is a tentpole, but you know, it's been a fantastic year for cinema already. I'm going to say that. But if you're looking for a blockbuster to view this month, I'm honestly going to sit here and say I don't think we're going to get a better blockbuster than Top Gun Maverick, maybe this year. Now, I'm trying to think of the schedule in my head. I know that Avatar's at the end of the year, but Top Gun Maverick, I'm going to be championing this for the next few years, how long it takes. I think this is going to be regarded as one of the best action films since Mad Max Fury Road. Personally, I'm going further back. I'm putting this up there with the Dark Knight, purely, again, story, emotion, the stuff that really does make a film work, and credit to every single person involved, a credit to Paramount, to Jerry Bruckheimer, Tom Cruise for not accepting offers from streaming services. I know they didn't want it to be there anyway, but a lot of companies still did accept those during COVID, and it's just great to see people not do that. So I'm going to leave this there. Comment your thoughts on Top Gun Maverick, comment your thoughts on Top Gun. You're looking forward to this, do you have tickets booked, what format are you watching in? If you want advice on formats, please just comment them, but we'll get back to you. We'll suggest some ones, because I really think you are missing it if you're not watching this in IMAX. And I'm not going to hit home, this is probably one of the best IMAX films I've ever seen. And again, Tron Legacy, Joseph Kosinski knows how to use IMAX, and he did it superbly in that film. So that's going to do everything in my Top Gun Maverick review. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as I said, comment your thoughts, subscribe if you're a fan of this, you're a fan of action films. Now, Tom Cruise is having another film until next year, very big film with that, and there'll be a lot of stuff being done in the build up to that film next year, which, you know, I'm not even looking at 2023 yet, but there's a lot of stuff on the way, a lot of other stuff. We've got the Steven Spielberg retrospective, we've got Star Wars Month, we've got Kenobi, and I'm going to say this as well, 6 PM tonight, it might have already gone, check our Twitter feed, socials are scrolling below. Everything is there about an Obi-Wan Kenobi press conference we're very fortunate to attend, so check that out if you're curious. Link in the description, hit follow, turn on notifications, and hope you enjoy that as well. So that's going to round out tonight's video. Thank you everybody for watching, for being involved, for taking the time out to view this video, and we'll be sure to see you on the next one. Take care.